So for this deep dive, we're looking at something really personal and pretty unusual. We have a set of sources that detail one man's journey from a truly life-altering tragedy to becoming the keeper of a huge spiritual legacy.
Exactly. We're diving into how this profound trauma, this fracture in his life, actually led him to a vocation, one built on crystal consciousness and, well, just radical synchronicity.
And this story centers almost entirely on the author Keith Birch. We're pulling mostly from his book, A Keeper's Tale.
Right. And it's important to say up front, this is a very raw narrative. The sources get into some heavy stuff: grief, loss, trauma, mental health.
Yeah.
So it's a deep one.
We're basically mapping a breakdown that kind of against all odds became this incredible breakthrough.
Yeah. And to really get it, you have to understand this concept he coined.
The shatter point. I find that term so evocative.
It's a brilliant term. He defines it not just as, a bad day or a problem. A shatter point is a rare event, so traumatic that it literally fractures the timeline of your life.
The person you were before, it's just gone.
It's gone. The reality you knew, the path you were on, all of it irrevocably broken. And then you have to, reconstruct a whole new life around this new, very painful center of gravity.
And his own catalyst, his own shatter point, was just devastating.
It was.
Back in 1997, he was a college lecturer. And he was the person who found a student who had tragically taken her own life.
That moment. That was the event horizon. The shock, the sources say, caused a total emotional shutdown. It led him straight into this profound struggle that he calls both a breakdown and eventually a breakthrough.
It was a complete severance from the life he knew.
And that rupture really defined the starting line of his new life. The sources detail the aftermath, this feeling of being completely shut down. The world felt impossibly loud.
Invasive.
Yeah, invasive and just overwhelming. At first, he did what most of us would do. He went to doctors, counselors, but the real shift, it started when he took this tiny step towards energy work.
It was so subtle at first.
Incredibly subtle. His counselor noticed how restless he was, how he couldn't ground himself, and she gave him a piece of smoky quartz.
Just a stone.
Just a stone. And she specifically said, "You're carrying some very heavy energy, the energetic residue of the tragedy." And that small stone, it became his first sort of physical anchor.
A gentle cleanser.
A cleanser, exactly. Something to help him process it all without being completely swamped by it.
And from there, he explored Reiki, but he makes this really interesting point about it.
Oh, yeah, this is so insightful. He realized he didn't need to learn Reiki. He couldn't. He needed to receive it.
His soul was just too fractured.
Right. He just didn't have the internal reserves to even start his own healing. He needed someone else's energy to begin.
This whole period also forced him to really look at his own stuff, his own internal issues.
Which the text synthesizes as this deep analysis of wounded self-esteem. He makes the point that confidence doesn't just, disappear in a flash. It frays over time, yeah. Often hidden behind this mask of being really capable on the outside.
So what were the quiet red flags for him? The warning signs he documented?
Well, the sources point to a few key things. First, overgiving. He realized his whole sense of worth was tied to what he did for other people. If he wasn't useful, he felt invisible.
I think a lot of people can relate to that.
Absolutely. And then there was rampant perfectionism. Making one mistake felt like total personal failure. It wasn't about high standards, it was desperation. He needed to be flawless just to feel okay.
That must be exhausting, that fear of being visible unless you're perfect.
Completely draining. The text also mentions constant energetic exhaustion, especially after being around people, because every interaction felt like a performance.
A performance to hide the chaos inside.
Exactly. And he's clear, these aren't flaws, They're a natural protective response to that kind of spiritual bruising.
So once he started to see that pattern, what was the first crystal ally he used to confront that shadow self?
For that, he needed the heavy artillery. Obsidian. He calls it the shadow revealer. The stone you use when you are genuinely ready to face the deep hidden truths causing the pain.
That's a big step.
A huge step. It takes real commitment.
Okay, so you confront the truth.
Yeah.
But then you're exposed, you're vulnerable. What did he use for the energetic cleanup and protection after that?
So after that initial rupture, it's all about cleansing and safety. He always had the smoky quartz for clearing, but he added black tourmaline.
The protection.
Critical for protection, for dispelling that fear-based energy and just creating a safe container while he was rebuilding his foundations.
And the final piece of that puzzle. You can't heal if you're holding on to anger or blame.
You can't. So that's where the heart work came in. For that, he used chrysoprase, which is the stone of forgiveness, releasing that spiritual burden. And then finally, to sort of bring it all back together, to bring the light back in, he used golden healer quartz.
To restore the damaged energy patterns.
Exactly, to bring vitality back into those fractured places. It's a whole toolkit, really, built on intentional resonance.
And that idea of intentional resonance, it leads us perfectly into the next part of the story. The shift from personal healing to his actual vocation, guided by, well, unseen forces.
Right. He was devouring books at this point, especially the Celestine prophecy, which really cemented this idea for him that the universe leaves breadcrumbs.
Meaningful synchronicity.
Meaningful synchronicity, if you just pay attention. But what's so fascinating is how this mystical journey was running parallel to a very structured corporate life.
That's the part that's so wild. He gets his crystal healing diploma, even starts teaching it. But at the same time, he's still a lecturer. He's teaching customer service and VQ programs.
And not just anywhere. We're talking conflict resolution and communication training at places like AstraZeneca, Royal London Insurance, and, get this, the Ministry of Defense.
Institutions that are not exactly known for hosting spontaneous spiritual awakenings.
The contrast is just extreme. He was living in two totally incompatible worlds. And that tension, that's what forced him to develop this idea of teaching spirituality in stealth.
How did he even pull that off? The professional risk seems huge, especially at the Ministry of Defense.
He was incredibly subtle. Instead of just giving textbook answers for workplace conflicts, he'd encourage people to think about the energy they were bringing to a disagreement.
Are you reacting from fear or responding from clarity? That kind of thing.
That's it, exactly. He'd carry stones in his pocket, smoky quartz for grounding, maybe blue lace agate for calm communication, citrine for confidence.
And he didn't just carry them for himself, he'd give them away sometimes.
He would. He'd pass one to someone and say something really low-key, like, keep this in your pocket, it'll help you think clearly.
With no big explanation.
No big explanation. He was offering this deep, intentional spiritual support using crystals as anchors right in the middle of a corporate training session. It's next-level integration.
And that stealth spirituality directly led to the synchronicity that launched his business, kccrystals.com.
Oh, absolutely. The source tells this amazing story. He's at a mind, body, and spirit fair, and he meets a woman who wants to retake his 2-year crystal course, but just can't afford it.
So in this spontaneous moment of trust, he offers her free tuition.
He does. And in return, she tells him she's a web designer.
And she builds him an e-commerce platform.
In exchange for the knowledge. Precisely. The universe didn't just give him the idea, it gave him the infrastructure, built on trust and energy, not on a cash investment. And that site immediately opened his business up to the world. Orders from the US, Australia, right away.
This trail of synchronicity, it just keeps going. And it leads him to the most significant professional relationship of his life.
With the late legendary crystal expert, Judy Hall.
It started so simply. Judy just placed an order on his little website.
Just a small order. But that quickly turned into emails, then phone calls, and then a real mentorship. Judy was really impressed with his dedication, with the courses he'd developed.
But the moment that really cemented their bond, the sources call it the Hall booking coincidence. This happened when he was at his absolute lowest point.
Yeah, he was going through another round of profound losses. His father-in-law, his best friend, his mother, and then his father all passed away in a pretty short period of time. He was just depleted.
He'd already booked and paid for a big hall in Manchester to teach a new course, but he couldn't do it.
He had nothing left to give. But instead of just canceling and losing the money, he has this impulse. He thinks, I wonder if Judy Hall would use it.
And she said yes.
Instantly. To his total shock, she said yes. The date was miraculously free in her packed international schedule. She was happy to fly up from Dorset and collaborate.
So his moment of lowest capacity turned into his biggest professional breakthrough.
It's the perfect illustration of the synchronicity he'd learned to trust, and they went on to run several really successful workshops together.
So let's fast forward to Judy's decline. The sources detail their final conversations.
They spoke twice in her last weeks. The first time, she told him how proud she was of his work. And she stressed this one thing. Always trust the consciousness of the stones above everything else.
Above any academic knowledge.
Above everything. The second call was different. She was clearly ready for her next chapter, and when he promised to stay connected, which must have been so hard to say, her reply was so firm. She said, that goes without saying, Keith. We'll be in touch again.
And she was. But not in a way anyone could have expected. The real legacy of trust came after she passed, when her daughter Jenny reached out to him.
Right. Jenny was faced with this monumental task. Her mother's entire personal crystal collection, the life's work of a global expert. And she was adamant she didn't want someone who would just clear the lot for cash.
She needed a custodian, someone who would honor the history, the energy of the collection.
And this led to an arrangement built completely on trust, which is just remarkable when you think about the financial value here.
It's unprecedented. He had just invested every penny he had in new stock, so he had no money. And Jenny proposed this radical deal.
The sources are clear. No money exchanged hands up front. He would take selections of the collection, sell them through his website, and they would split the proceeds with a portion going to charity.
The trust was the entire foundation of the deal.
It was everything. And he committed to honoring that. Every single piece sold came with a certificate of authenticity, with Judy's photo, a message from Jenny, a QR code. It was about transferring guardianship, transferring a story, not just selling an item.
And the results were immediate. The first launch, they timed it for the second anniversary of Judy's passing. It resulted in over 65 orders.
And it completely crashed his ordering system. It sold out instantly. But more than that, it was the palpable effect the crystals had on their new guardians.
This gets into the real core of crystal consciousness. There was one anecdote in particular about a customer named Gail who ordered a Brandenburg quartz.
Yes. And for you listening, Brandenburg quartz is a big deal. It's a very powerful healer that combines amethyst, clear quartz, and smoky quartz all in one piece. It's for deep soul connection.
So what happened with Gail?
She called him, swearing that when she held it, the actual air in the room shifted. She felt this tangible presence. She described it as feeling like an old friend had just arrived.
A clear implication that Judy's spirit was still connected to the stones.
Very clear. And this idea was amplified by another customer, Tanya, who ordered two very specialized pieces, a rare trigonic quartz and a calming ajoite crystal. Her interest in shamanic practices sent him down a new research path.
Which led him to the central revelation of the whole book.
The revelation. He started reading Jeremy Narby's The Cosmic Serpent, and in it, he discovers the Amazonian shaman's concept of the Maninkari.
The Maninkari. These invisible spirit beings that dwell within plants, animals, sacred places, and crystals.
Exactly. And this term it clicked. It gave him the language for 25 years of intuitive experience. It validated this feeling that crystals have a voice, a character, a conscious spirit. They aren't just chemical compounds.
It was the philosophical framework that his stealth spirituality had been pointing to all along.
Yes. And now he's channeling that realization into his new work, including a book called The Maninkari Crystal Guardians.
So when you step back and look at the whole journey, it's this incredible map. It starts at the deepest personal loss, the shatter point. It moves through this quiet, internal self-reclamation. And it ends with him becoming the curator of this massive conscious legacy.
And the core insight, I think, is that healing and confidence, they aren't things you get from the outside. They are a reclamation of the authenticity that trauma tried to steal from you.
Often guided by the synchronized rhythm of the universe.
And his final reflection on healing is so powerful. He realized it doesn't always look like we expect. It's not always loud, dramatic revelations. Often it's found in the gentle and very difficult rediscovery of being still, the ability to just listen.
And that stillness is everything, isn't it? If the trauma forces you into that terrifying stillness, and if, as the sources suggest, crystals and even plants have this consciousness, the Maninkari, then what does that ask of us?
It's a fundamental shift.
It is. We have to stop dismissing these powerful intuitive encounters as mere coincidence. We have to start listening to the ancient wordless wisdom that's woven into the very fabric of the physical world around us, the wisdom that our busy modern lives are constantly trying to drown out.